Well, everybody, it's all about garden-inspired living today. We've got 3 segments I am so excited to show you about on today's video. Number 1, we're going to cover so many of your comments, very strong opinions on my placement of a flagstone.
It's awesome.
Flagstone patio in front, the seating, the possibility of an umbrella, its placement in front of my bathroom window. We're going to walk through all of that. I really appreciated your comments, and well, let's just say there's a lot to talk about. Number 2, I've created some really beautiful floral arrangements inspired by St. Patrick's Day, by spring, and just really by some of the places in my house that I want to showcase beautiful blooms. We'll give you a few how-tos on that. And then thirdly, a great surprise. I don't believe I have showed you the completed gallery wall in the great room. Again, some how-to tips, kind of some behind the scenes thinking about what went where. Well, Stuart, there's just a lot to talk about today, so what do you say? You want to get started?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Well, Stuart, I don't have a lot of things in my garden right now, but I have a few, and I cannot resist getting my hands in the dirt and doing a little bit of planting. So these yellow bicolored pansies that are Maxima, I believe, were already planted in the front yard. And the other day, you guys saw me, I planted some at the base of that topiary that may or may not continue to live there in that spot. And then I found some matching little violas. I think I showed you guys these, and I planted as part of my edible landscaping thematic, I planted some Swiss chard in there that will get big and kind of be in the same color palette. And then I've got just a couple of pots over here that I brought from the old place that have some daffodils already planted in them. So I thought I want to emphasize this little ribbon of yellow going around here. So I'm, as I always do, stealing from Peter to pay Paul.
Oh, I missed that.
And I am, well, I don't have as
that in
much
so
to
long.
steal from, Stuart. So I am stealing from my own garden and tucking them in where I can in this giant urn, so that when those daffodils bloom, there will be some yellow in here to keep them company. And even though this urn will be moved, I still think it's fun, even while things are in process, to have a little color around here.
A pop of color.
A pop of color, yes.
All these phrases
Yes.
I've been missing.
Pop of color, you know, because if you're new to our channel, first of all, welcome. Don't forget to hit subscribe.
Yeah.
If you like it, like this content. But if you're new to this channel, one of my signature touches, my signature gardening thematics is always that I like lots of structure with pops of color and only an explosion of color a couple times a year, in the spring and in the fall. So continuing with kind of my mantra for that. Pop of color, pop of color.
Pop of
Say
color.
it to yourself over and over again, Stuart, as your mantra
It comes up
for
in my
today.
life through graphics and stuff a lot.
Yeah.
I literally have
So
that thought.
I'm just going to tuck this in. And I before we really get down to the nitty and gritty of talking about all of the comments that we got, Stuart, we thought TVs were
We
controversial.
did. Yeah,
But oh my goodness, having a patio in the front yard and the possibility of an umbrella in the front yard of a windy location, that is something else we'll want to address. I'll water that in later, but now that little pop of color continues over here. I got on my Cool Job gloves I love so much. Okay, so Stuart, what do you think? Let's address some of the opinions / concerns / in some cases pretty strong disagreements with my vision of having a small flagstone patio here in the front yard. Well, first of all, let me rewind a little bit. So one of my primary motivations for moving to this neighborhood is because it is a front porch sitting, wave at your neighbor, visit with your neighbor kind of neighborhood. And in fact, if you stand in one location on my street and you look down that way, you will even see that back in the early 1900s when these homes were built, that I could be sitting on my front porch and the neighbor could be sitting on their front porch, and you could actually have a conversation because the front porches are lined up. And it's a beautiful day out here, Stuart, so we're going to be competing with lots of noise.
I missed that too.
There's that too. Several of the homes on this block are completely being renovated, as mine was just done. But that is basically, I think, the charm of this neighborhood is its walkability. And
yeah, we've had 2 or 3 people already
stopped just while we've been out here. They've stopped, they've said hello, they already know my name, and I love that because I love the European vibe of living in this neighborhood that is eminently walkable because we've got sidewalks, kids playing up and down the sidewalks, joggers. Another reason I love this is apparently there's an imminent marathon coming up. I don't know if it's the Redbud one or another one, but there was a police car just a block from here who was positioned to block off the intersection so hundreds of joggers could go by. So it's that kind of aura that I love in this neighborhood, and one of the reasons why I want to have a small front patio so that I can be part of the action. Now, you'll notice that my front porch is very tiny. It doesn't have any kind of covering over it. And so I wanted a larger space to hang out in. Yesterday evening, Hubs and I sat outside all evening long. We had a number of friends who came by, and my porch was just a little too constricted. Over here, it will be just perfect when this is all in place. I can add additional chairs. It will be small enough so that it doesn't, I think, kind of overshadow the scale of the house. It will be made of materials that are indigenous to my style of home and its architecture. It will blend in seamlessly, and I think it will be really beautiful. The other thing is I will have, some of you were concerned about privacy, so let's address that concern first of all. There will be, number one, a suggestion of privacy, and if you haven't looked at the plan that we put in a video, I think it was 2 times back, Stuart, we might have to show it again. Yeah. There is a boxwood hedge that will go along the circumference of this small patio, and you can see where all of these flags are positioned right now, and that is, good morning, that is the outline of this patio itself. Just beyond that, there will be a boxwood hedge that will come in an arc around the patio. There will be a mirrored boxwood hedge that comes and arcs over here. Now, there will be kind of a path where you can enter from the sidewalk onto the patio, and it will be of a nice scale, I think. Now, beyond the boxwood hedge, there will be a number of small growing trees over here that I will keep pruned up. So I'll get some air circulation through here and another layer of privacy on this side, which will also give me not only a bit of privacy. I don't want too much because, again,
yeah, you want to see them.
I want to see people. It's all about conviviality.
If you want privacy, you can go inside.
If I want privacy, as so many of you pointed out, why wouldn't I just sit in my backyard? Because I don't want to sit in my backyard all the time. When I want privacy, I will sit in the backyard. When I want to be part of what's going on in the neighborhood on a gorgeous day like today and meet all the neighborhood dogs, then I want to be out here where the action is. And there's a lot of action in this neighborhood. So there'll be another layer of Yaupon hollies that I will keep pruned up, and I think they will be very handsome here.
Yeah.
And will give us a little bit of shade over here. And I think I will really like that. Now someone, maybe they haven't watched any of my previous videos, they were appalled and thought it would look so tacky for me to have a huge window box, or actually it will not be attached to the wall, but it will give the illusion of a window box planter that I have here. It will be huge, and it will contain, Stuart, do you have a comment?
No, I was going to say I could put a picture of your other window boxes up here so
okay,
people
maybe
can kind
we
of
should
see
do that.
what you do with them.
Yeah, so it's not going to be one of the two small ticky-tacky ones. It will very much look like an extension of the garden over here and will be a really pretty backdrop. The other thing I like about it is the top of the window box will be about right here. And again, if you reference the one I had in the past, there will be small evergreens in here and things that I can enjoy from the inside out, and again will give me another layer of privacy and a little bit of shelter from the strong southern sun.
So I do want to say how much we appreciate everybody's opinion.
Oh,
right?
I really, because
it is cool to hear everybody's thoughts.
One thing about how my mind works is that I kind of have a vision, and I'll show a couple of inspirational pictures that were something of my muse for this space, that were actually set in English gardens in front of English cottages with umbrellas. But also that part of my design process is I get something of a vision, and then I think, how can I execute that vision through trial and error? First of all, using what I already have, and secondly, to make sure that it's in harmony with the style of my home. So I already had these chairs, and some of you said, well, I don't like the black, I like the wooden ones better. Ultimately, I might like wooden ones better too. But to address another concern many of you had, why would I have an umbrella in this space when it was so windy? Well, number one, nobody in Oklahoma, or very few, unless they've just forgotten to take it down, keep their umbrellas up 99% of the time.
We learned that here real quick, didn't we?
It doesn't matter if it's out by your pool, in the backyard, in a protected space. When winds again come sweeping down the plain,
all kinds of things have to go. Have to get put up.
You have to put all sorts of things up. So this is part of my gardening lifestyle. It won't be such a huge umbrella that will completely overwhelm my house. I'm not thinking of a large retractable resort type umbrella. I'm thinking of one with a wooden pole that looks very country living, and that will easily be able to be put up and taken down, and not so massive that I won't be able to store it in my closet inside on windy days. But then on days like today, when it's absolutely beautiful, but there's a little bit of strong sun, a tiny bit of shade would be appreciated, then I can just easily pull it out, put it up, and invite Stuart and some other people over for a beer.
Well, we only get about 2 weeks of this weather that we have today.
Yes.
We don't get very much of this, and I doubt many people, I don't know what it's like now, but we get hot weather here.
Oh, yes.
And that shade is going to be very beneficial.
Very
in the
appreciated. But that said, how many of us are sitting outside when it's 103?
That's true.
In the front, in the back, in the shade, or in full sun anyway?
That's true.
That's when we go inside, just like people further north go inside during the depths of winter. That's when we hibernate inside, and there's not a ton of activity out on the street. I know, it's so true. So let's talk a little bit more about the wind factor. So one of the reasons that I'm considering these chairs, again, that I already have, is because these are heavy, aren't they, Stuart?
Super heavy, yeah.
But they are also
the wind's not going to blow them away.
No, it is not going to blow them away. They are very, very comfortable. They rock. and I just love them and I really like them. Now, is it appropriate for them to be in this glossy black? Well, I have two thoughts on that. I go back and forth. My ultimate decision is not yet made, and that is my question of the day for you. If you are going to use these in the front, if you were, would you leave them in this glossy black, which, by the way, does match my shutters and my front door? Or would you paint them gray that's more the color of the wood furniture I have on my front porch?
I love it when I'm heading back.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
No,
Stuart.
it's not your fault. I should have stayed over there.
And actually, it was this graphite gray that was the original color of these chairs years ago, because I've had these for probably 25 years, Stuart.
I've always seen them.
And they were graphite gray. I thought there was a place where some of the paint had chipped off and I could show you. But I could do it, and this is how I'm leaning at this point, to paint them and with outdoor paint the color of that kind of graphite gray, which would make them recede a little bit more back into the background. And then of course I can put some cushions on here that will make it a little bit more comfy cozy. They probably, which is why I understand so many of your comments, they probably right now look too modern, too stark, too in your face, because they are out here isolated by themselves. There's nothing to soften them. But by the time I have layers of greenery, I have the flagstone in place, there is a backdrop of greenery right here, things growing in the foreground. It will be spring and summer by then, and all of the trees will have leafed out. The appearance of this will look so much softer and so much more appropriate to my little English cottage. So that's my thinking. The other thinking is, even though, yes, this does get very, very windy, it's not windy all of the time. And when it's not, that's when we want to be outside and really taking advantage of it. If it's really windy, I'm probably not going to be in my backyard either.
I got a thought on the chairs nobody probably thought of.
Okay, what's that?
This little part right here catches my cables all the time.
Oh, it does catch your cables all the time?
So I wouldn't be mad if you had to get new ones.
I thought you were going to say it mimics the shape of my eyebrow
way
bathroom
less design
window.
heavy.
No,
way more personal.
Yeah, it's all about our own frames of reference, isn't it? So that's another thought that I had about these. So again, that's my thinking. I really did love your comments. One more thing is, there's a lot of community activities that go on here at Halloween, marathons, picnics, all sorts of things like that. And on many occasions, people do sit out in their front yard.
I hadn't even thought about what Halloween's going to be like over here, probably.
Oh, Halloween is...
It was big where you were.
Oh, it's 10 times. It's been voted the best place to see Halloween in Oklahoma.
Holy
in this
smokes.
neighborhood. Okay, so, you know, so obviously I want to be out here when events are going on. But someone also made the comment, well, who would just sit out there? And it was funny to me, because as I read that comment, Carrie the Bud Whisperer was over here doing some work, and she said, did I mind if she sat out here with her computer in one of these chairs, because the sunshine was just so warm and inviting.
I've had days I didn't want to be outside either, though. So
yeah. So yes, people will want to sit out here. I've been sitting out here this morning, and I think it's lovely. But do we want to sit out here all the time on windy days?
Day like today, yes, we do.
Day like today, yes, we do. But I so take your point that when it's really windy, when it's really ugly out, when it's 110 degrees, no, believe me, I'll be inside hanging out with my flowers, my flower arrangements that I put together for inside, because it's too darn hot to be outside. And that's a good segue to stop here, Stuart, and look at some beautiful flower arrangements. Okay, so Stuart, let's go inside. And here's the thing, when I talk about garden-inspired living, this is one of the decision points that I've come up against as we've moved in, and things are looking a little bit cleaner and more organized, Stuart.
I would say so.
Boy, I don't know if that camera adjust to
Oh, it does a great job.
bright light.
They just got a really good look at it.
And inside, so still waiting for furniture, still waiting for pieces of furniture that have already arrived to be put together.
Oh, the boxes.
All the boxes.
I will say this, there's a few less boxes in here than there were.
Than there used to be.
Yeah,
well, it's a process.
Up considerably.
So one of the decisions that we were making was what to do with this closet with the pretty windows. And I've gone back and forth, partly based on some of your suggestions, on my friend John Turman's suggestions of should this just be a coat closet and a storage closet, or should it be, he called it an entertaining closet. And in the end, practicality wins out.
Yeah.
Because this is where I realized that I'm a gardener first and foremost, and I really needed a practical storage area. So while I am waiting for things to be fixed or to put outside, or things that will temporarily be staged outside, i.e. like that umbrella, I can just bring it in, come in the door. It's not going to be prohibitively heavy, and I can store it in here. So I'm in the process of rearranging this closet. I'll be putting in some shelving. I've got a roller shelf here, a roller cart here. That I will put in. I know the boxes. I know the boxes.
Like it was something
but I'll have a roller cart in here. Why? Because I want a roller cart that I can roll in and out, and even onto the front porch. Because why? It is going to hold lots of my garden tools that I will use in the front yard. So it's kind of, since I don't have a storage area in the front yard, I don't have a mud room in the front portions of the house, then this will serve as a mudroom cart. And it will live in here, and when I take off my garden gloves, when I take off my garden boots, like right now, Stuart.
With the ease of
with the
not
ease,
even
right,
over.
That I can do that right here. I can then put the garden boots for the week inside the storage closet, and everything will be accessible. So that's a case where practicality won out over charm. Okay, let's talk flowers now, Stuart. Well, this is the first arrangement I put together, and Stuart, I took a little bit of video myself of the process, and how this started was 4 to 6 inch pots that I got at Trader Joe's, where these bulbs had already been forced. These are fragrant hyacinth bulbs, and I'm telling you, when they're in full bloom, it infuses the entire parlor. And the color obviously is inspired by the blues that I'm trying to bring into this space. But I think it's really lovely, don't you, Stuart?
Absolutely.
And I could have top dressed it in moss, mulched it in moss, but I really liked the earthiness of just the raw dirt, and even the few little roots that are kind of peeking their heads out of the soil itself. So I took 3 pots, I removed them from the plastic containers, and then I probably removed and teased out the roots and teased off some of the soil. And then I put them in this silver plated bowl, and this was a thrift store find. I think it was $2.99. It's one of my favorite vessels to use. And then I can just keep it here in this location. If the light gets really, really strong here, because I get strong south light, in that case then I might relocate it towards the front, or I can just move it around a little bit so that I increase its lifespan. But I think it's beautiful, and I love the way it speaks to spring, because heretofore you guys have seen that I've had lots of amaryllis and flowers like that out, but I'm kind of there. I love them, but they're past their season. I'm ready to move on to spring bloomers, and these gorgeous hyacinths were my arrangement number 1. Let's take a break here, and then I'll show you number 2. Well, if you're like me, you're always thinking about and maybe planning for the next holiday. And if I look at the calendar, that would be St. Patrick's Day. So a couple of things I wanted to share with you. Number 1, while I was composing this St. Patrick's Day inspired bouquet, I was listening to 2 stations that I just think you might really love. Stuart, are you an Eva Cassidy fan?
Not familiar.
Are you familiar with her? She was 33 years old when she died in 1996 of melanoma. Absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous voice, and she recreated a lot of jazz tunes, blues tunes, a lot of Simon and Garfunkel. She has a rendition of Danny Boy, speaking of St. Patrick's Day, that will absolutely bring a tear to your eye. That and Over the Rainbow. So I would highly encourage you to check her out. It's EVA Cassidy, just like it sounds. You can put on, tell Pandora or Spotify to play the Eva Cassidy radio, and you might find it interesting to read a little bit about her life. I heard an NPR story earlier this week that talks about a guy who is really bringing up a lot of music and I think publishing a lot of things that heretofore had not been published, and she really didn't get great notoriety, that's hard for me to say, until she had already passed. But oh my goodness, her voice is absolutely beautiful. So Stuart, for once, I'm giving you a musician you haven't heard of.
Exactly, and I have a phrase that goes right with this, and it's most poets paint life but don't get recognized till after.
Okay, I like that. Who knew? As you are a poet too. Secondly, then I would also encourage you, I was listening to this morning, and Stuart, let's put a little sampling up here of the Celtic Women's Channel, and it's absolutely wonderful Celtic tunes, Celtic songs, not exclusively women singing them, but I think if you want to get in the mood for St. Patrick's Day, you definitely might want to listen to these channels. The other thing is it's, if you're planning a St. Patrick's Day party, my folks growing up always had a huge St. Patrick's Day party. My second mother's middle name was Fitzgerald, and if you too like to have St. Patrick's Day parties, then you might want to put on some of that music. Now back to the topic at hand, which is, I think, this very becoming St. Patrick's Day inspired arrangement. So I just knew that I wanted it to largely be green when I went to Trader Joe's. Right now, since I don't really have a garden, I don't have a lot of things to pick for my own landscape. But when I went, I mean, are these hydrangea blooms not quintessentially Irish?
It's really cool.
They almost look like...
It doesn't even look like a hydrangea.
I know, it doesn't look like
it's beautiful.
Four-leaf clovers. So anyhow, I got a number of those, and then I am someone who kind of likes ordinary flowers, and there's nothing more ordinary and consequently inexpensive than carnations. So these kind of chartreusey, limey green carnations really spoke to me. Some of them were still in petite or bud form, and then some of them were already in full form. I don't know, can you point one out to me, Stuart? Keep going. Some of these here. They've got this frilly edge to them, and I really love the way the light shines through them. Sometimes these are backlit, and you can see the light shining through them. Again, for $4.99 a bunch, what a deal. And I think it would also look beautiful with nothing but just those carnations. And then I loved the way they echoed the green in these mums, and how there was just a hint of lavender, and the only real additional color in this arrangement besides just that limey green and the creamy tones. Now when I put it together, I have it in a basket, an old basket that belonged to my mother-in-law. I love it for that reason. And then I put an old glass canister, the lid had broken, and I put it inside the basket as a liner, so it made a great receptacle for these flowers. Once I got this in place and I kind of knew where I wanted it to live in the house, which is right by the entry from the parlor and into the kitchen, I knew where I wanted to place it. And when I put it in that spot, I thought it just looked a little too uptight to me. It looked like it needed something that was a little softer. And since I have very few things to cut from in this new garden, I just went out exploring, and sure enough, I did find a candidate that would be garden fresh and a garden clipping. And it was these beautiful arbor vitae branches, which have, even though it's kind of a wintry wintry note, nevertheless is wintry to the point of almost be springy because it has a fern-like quality to it in the way the fronds are kind of deeply cut and very, very delicate, and I like the way they spill over the edges of this container. So the entirety of this composition was very inexpensive. You could do it on a much smaller scale if you liked, but I think it's kind of impactful, and more than that, I think it just screams Erin go bra, don't you?
It's very good.
So there you go. This is my flower arrangement number 2, inspired by St. Patrick's Day. Well, by far, if I want to channel early spring, the go-to arrangement that I want is for some kind of dramatic, massive flowering branches. And in fact, the first time I walked into the house and I saw this wonderful island, I thought, ooh, if this were mine, I would always have a massive floral display right on the corner of the island. And consequently, I have ever since we moved in. Now, this is an arrangement that you will see, it's really popular right now, not just flowering branches, but branches in general, really tall, massive ones. They can just be tree branches you cut from outside, from shrubs, from whatever. It could be 1 or 2 really large monstera leaves that you get from the florist or from your grocery store. But I love flowering branches because they speak to spring. Now, I got these at Trader Joe's. This is just a couple of bunches of them. I think there were $7.99 a bunch. Now, if I were at home, I could be cutting, oh wow, that's a Freudian slip, Stuart. Oh. If I were at my previous home, I could have gone out and cut some of my own flowering branches from my Deutzia or Redbud, even my Viburnum. But I have to wait to do that next spring. This spring, I just went to Trader Joe's and I got these gorgeous, I'm not even exactly sure what they are because they weren't marked. I bet there's some kind of cherry blossom bloom or something. If you guys know, please comment below, but I think they're lovely. I love the color of the stalk itself, the branch itself, in addition to these beautiful, dainty little flowers that will continue to open up over time. Now, when I envisioned it, it was in a massive glass vase or glass vessel that would kind of match this sweet little stand I have with some heart rosemary shortbread cookies that I also got at Trader Joe's that are a favorite around here, and they're a favorite of Stuart, who just made himself a cup of coffee and plans to have a shortbread as a little treat. Am I right, Stuart?
You're correct.
I do keep Stuart well fed and watered. So in my imaginings, I really want this to be glass, but I didn't have anything that seemed to be massive enough and that would help the branches cascade. Consequently, Stuart, what are we putting on our next thrift shopping adventure?
What are we?
A great big massive
drew a blank.
Glass. You're not paying attention.
Oh, no,
Stuart.
you said
thinking,
cookies and my brain went
your brain
somewhere
went
else.
to really. Well, what I'm going to look for is some kind of really great, huge glass container.
I'm going to look for what you're looking for.
Yeah, like a hurricane or something that I can use.
Although I
for
do
these
like
branches.
this one a lot.
I do like this one too, but I think I also want to thrift a really great glass container. So I think that pretty much wraps up my triple play of flower arrangements that I will have for the week. And by the way, if you are a member in up and coming episodes, when I do my flower arrangements of the week, if you're a member, we're going to put this segment in early for you guys to take advantage of, because you might want to create some of these, and you can even send me your pics and I can put them in the community tab.
A cool bonus of being a member.
Yeah, cool little bonus of being a member. So I think they're beautiful. You guys let me know what kind of flower arrangements you are cutting from your own gardens or from your local grocery store. Stuart, let's take a break here and I'm going to show you another update. Well, I think Stuart, didn't we show the beginning of the process of how we were going to put the gallery walls together?
John and you two
with John
talked about it a little, yeah.
Yeah, and basically what we did was we just laid it all out on the floor in some kind of combination. And then John had kind of an ingenious idea, and he just takes painter's tape measures the outline of the picture or the painting or whatever, the map, and then puts that in place. And then we can get an idea of the scale of it. And then he also kind of remembers what goes where. So we divided it kind of into 3 different parts. And we did this section first, the midsection later, and then this area last. And I think there was a question of the day where I asked, should I mix in some of the paintings with some of the maps? And that was a resounding yes on your part.
That's cool.
And I do like the way it looks. And then after everything was in place, I did want to soften it a little bit and personalize it a little bit more. So for example, by the elephant, a picture of the elephant that we took that was charging us in Africa, there's pictures of us sitting out inside of our front tent and all of the people that were on the African safari with us. Little things like that. As always, I have to have some kind of reference to the garden. So I've got some dried fern, some dried different kinds of foliage that I took from my previous home, and that's kind of an homage to that house. And then just some other images. We are still waiting. I have to take this to the framers because I've got an old certificate of my husband's father, who was on the Board of Regents for the University of Oklahoma, actually for the state. And we've got a certificate of that I want to frame and put in there. So we will add that a little bit later. I'm still working on the bookshelves and haven't really styled those yet. There's one thing that I want to change out. After we got it up, I decided that I liked the basket there, but that the basket to me looks a little bit too small. So I'm going to get something that's a little bit larger scale. But overall, I really like the way it looks. Am I constantly straightening things because I'm a little bit OCD in that respect? Yes, I am. But you know, that's part of the charm. If you look at old English country houses and things, there's always something that is a little bit wonky. Candles that aren't standing up straight, lampshades that aren't absolutely fitted and styled exactly as they should be. They're not standing up and flying right. Just different things like that, because that is a lived-in look. Mm-hmm. It's not a contrived look. It's a lived-in look. And hopefully this kind of provides to my family and to visitors, provides a glimpse into our lives and that kind of lived-in look. And of course, then if they don't get it, they might get it after they have a drink or two at the bar, as they stop on the way in. So that's kind of how this gallery wall evolved. I do still want, some of you were naysayers about having books on the TV table, but again, as someone told me, you do you, and I think that's true as you decorate. You guys do you and what you like, because it's creating spaces that I think really appeal to each of us individually. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times. There's usually not a wrong answer. There's just a right answer for you and your aesthetic. So that's what we tried to do here. We have references to our past trips, to things that belonged to his brother, who was quite a global vagabond who traveled all around the world, and some of our favorite books and
what things. A cool thing for people to say about you.
What's that?
A global
vagabond. Yes.
It's a neat thing.
Yes.
I've heard so many cool stories like
his brother that died at a relatively young age was definitely a global vagabond and one of the most interesting characters you will ever meet. If my husband is Ernest Hemingway, I'm going to have to come up. I'm going to have to come up with a counterpart for my brother-in-law.
Maybe Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. So there you go. I think the gallery wall came together very, very well. I like the way it looks. I've still got a little bit of styling to do in the rest of the room before I completely reveal it to you. As I suspected, I don't think we have ever watched this TV during the afternoon. So for us, the glare that you're seeing off of the window isn't an issue because this is our nighttime room, or maybe our winter room, but it's not one that I'm in very often during the day, and neither is my husband unless he's in his dad chair. doing some work. You can kind of see over there, the little mess. That would be the dad chair. So I hope you guys like it. Again, we'll show you some images of John helping me and how he positioned some of the pieces on the wall.
They should have already seen
There's
this
a
by now.
crosshatch. There's some crosshatch pieces of tape where something round was going to go, which was a good tip. Again, something that's very intuitive, but that somebody like me doesn't always get. So it was nice to have someone who could show me some tips and tricks. Stuart, does that about wrap it up?
I think
for
this Sunday,
in this show, we've talked flowers, we've talked the great umbrella and front porch patio controversy.
I did want to say I expected getting back in the garden to like kind of make me feel good, but now that we're kind of doing it, it feels really good.
Yeah,
it's surprising how like it's kind of exciting.
Yeah, and you guys are here because you're gardeners too, and you just absolutely can't stand it if you're not outside. So I hope you enjoyed this little outside trek with us. Thank you so much for all of your comments.
Yeah.
They really make me think. Even the ones that I decide against, they really make me think. And as you guys know, I change my mind a lot. I kind of have a vision, but there are many iterations of a vision before it actually comes to pass. So thank you so much for your comments, your concern, how you tell me what your preferences are. I just love it, and you do it in such a loving, interesting way, and I really, really appreciate that, because it makes me feel as if you take ownership in this little video enterprise that Stuart and I have here together, and I love taking
our community.
I love taking the journey with you guys. So stay tuned. Please put in the comments below if you'd like to give me an update on something that I haven't shown you for a while.
Yeah, let us know.
Or if you would like me to share tips and tricks that I haven't shared in a while, please do so as the English cottage house comes together.